Generally speaking, we have two options. I like to break it down as a Hyundai or a Ferrari. Ferraris are fun. They get you there really fast, but hey, brother, they're expensive. All right, now Hyundais, they do the job done. It gets you from A to B, but it's not as fun. Which conversation do you want to have?
How do you craft effective presentations and or proposals? In some industries, it's one and the same.
By finding the root cause, if we don't fix the root cause of the problems will get worse, which will have a consequence of
$15,000 a month against them losing $3 million a month. But if I don't set it up that way, they can't conceptualize it. All right, welcome to another episode of Closers or Losers. Jeremy Miner, founder of Seventh Level. Here's my business partner. One of them is the CEO of Seventh Level Global over in our Sydney, Australia headquarters. Now, today, Matthew, how are you, by the way?
I'm good.
Chilling like a villain?
I'm penicillin.
Trying to stay out of trouble over there? All right, good.
I'm doing my absolute best.
All right, good. That could be trouble. Okay, but anyways, that's a whole nother subject. So today we wanted to go over a subject that we've been getting a lot of questions, people just leaving comments on IG and Facebook ads and different things. We always try to see what salespeople are struggling with and just kind of give them a little nibble here on the podcast. So today we wanted to go over how do you craft effective presentations and or proposals. In some industries, it's one and the same. Right. There's some industries I sold a proposal was a presentation. The presentation was a proposal. In others, it could be a presentation, then a proposal. It just varies, tweaks different industries.
In your mind, like what's the difference?
Man, it's hard to say. Like typically in B2C, not all, typically in B2C, it's kind of like a presentation and then you're just going right into the funds they need or funding right now.
Yeah.
That being said, let's say if I sold home improvement and I sold pools, I might go through a presentation first of the design of what it's going to look like, and then schedule the next appointment to go through a proposal. If I'm selling high-end pools that are 100, 200 grand. So that's a B2C industry where I might have a presentation and a proposal, right? If I'm selling SaaS, I might have a demo that's part of the presentation, and then I come back with a proposal with different options, or I could combine that in. It's hard. There's no straight jacket interpretation. If you told me which industry, I'd be like, probably just a presentation there because it's a one-talk close, or, that's more of a complex sound environment. Probably going to do a presentation to the board. Then we're going to come back with a proposal with different options. It's
okay. That makes sense.
So what do we?
So it's really just depending on how long or short you really want the sales cycle to be. I think you need to be sort of optimal. So if you can slide straight into it, all the better. If you can't, then you need to sort of,
Yeah, and there's some industries where you don't even need a presentation or a proposal. Like if I'm selling cars down at Bob's, Auto, I'm not necessarily going through I guess you could say a test drive could be a demo or a presentation, but you're not whipping out the slide charts or anything. You might write down some numbers on a piece of paper, I guess, if you want to call it that. Or if I'm selling life insurance, on a phone call, it might be running through a few numbers. It just depends on what you're selling. So why don't we go over like a structure that we train, 160 some industries now, all over B2C, B2B, that duplicates in every industry. You want to show them something like that?
Yeah, it sounds good.
Okay. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to first remind them, instead of just going straight into your solution, we want to bring back up, this could be a proposal or presentation. We want to bring back up problems that they told us they have. Okay, now why would we want to bring back up the problems? So we want to get them back in that mindset of here's where they're currently at. This is their current or real situation. Remember, we built a gap. They told us, helped them see what problems they have. Maybe they didn't know. So we go over the problems that they said they had, challenges, problems, issues.
So rebuild that gap.
We want to rebuild the gap. Yeah, 100%. That emotionally connects the dots. So we want to connect the dots between the problems, the root cause of the problem. So the second thing is we want to focus on the root cause. What is the root cause of those problems? See, it's not just enough to tell them the problems, but we want to go over the root cause that we found out that is actually causing the problems to happen, right? And then we really want to show them like the consequences of the problems. Okay. Then I know we were just on that chart. Okay, well, let me ask you, why is it so important for us to go over like the root cause and the consequence of the problems, not just the problems itself?
Because you want to create that urgency. So there's the run toward, and there's like the run away,
Yeah.
right? So
So
like
we
if you
remind
don't,
them.
if you don't contemplate what the consequence of not acting, not solving the problem, not achieving the solution is, then you're going to lack the urgency to want to move forward quickly.
Exactly. If nothing, compare the price to.
Yeah.
You're comparing you're basically what you're doing is you're anchoring the price of your solution or prices of your solution to solve the problems, because these consequences aren't very good. Now, we also want to go over not just that, but what are their
So you're
objectives?
anchoring the price of the solution to the cost of the consequence.
Yeah.
Is that right?
That seems cheap. So let's say if I'll just give you a random example. Let's say if I'm selling, say if I'm selling for a marketing agency, right? And I'm
Okay.
talking to a company, and their problem is the leads they've been generating, low quality, hardly any of them answer. And they're trying to scale to, let's say they just want to scale to $5 million a month. Let's just keep it simple. Right now, they're like $2 million a month. They want to get to five. Okay. The problem is the lead quality. The root cause is maybe they don't know how to advertise the right way. Maybe the vendor they're using is not very good. That's the root cause. And the consequences are they cannot scale. They cannot scale. They're at 2 million a month. They want to be at 5 million a month. That's a what? $3 million per month gap. That's a $36 million per year gap, right? Then I go over their objectives are this. They want to get to $5 million a month. So I've created a $3 million a month gap. Let's say my solution for my services is a 15,000 monthly retainer. Now I have positioned the 15,000 a month against them losing $3 million a month.
Okay.
That seems pretty cheap.
It does.
Gain an extra $3 million a month in revenue. All I have to do is pay 15,000. But if I don't set it up that way, they can't conceptualize that. They can't, there's no, they're not comparing the end result that they want to all I have to pay is this to get this.
Okay.
Oh, that's really cheap. Yeah.
Okay. So we got like, if it's marketing company, we got the step one would be like you have low quality leads and say like lack of predictability. The root cause of that is something like
Your internal team doesn't know how to, X, Y, Z. They don't know how to blah, 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 blah. Whatever you find out from your situation, problem, those type of
okay,
things.
cool. The consequence of that is that like they have an inability to grow the company, can't grow and scale, bad returns.
Yeah.
Right.
Can't grow, can't scale. They might be losing salespeople because maybe they're not making that many sales because the leads are bad. I mean, there's other problems you can find, right? They might have attrition problems, which is causing them more money. They might be losing other internal staff, or those are problems as well that they're having that we help them find. Just as an example. Okay. And then their objectives are, in this case, they want to get to $5 million a month. They're at 2. The gap is $3 million a month they're losing because of the problem.
Okay, so the objective is we create a marketing system that adds the $25 million of revenue to the business.
Whatever, yeah. We take over your marketing. Let's say if you're marketing, you take over your marketing, we do this, we do that, and you get all these great leads, blah, 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 blah. And that's just one random industry example. You do this in every industry, cybersecurity, medical device. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. If you're doing presentations and proposals like this.
I'm just writing all this down.
So there you go.
All right, cool. So it's like, okay, so then from there, like now we got the objectives. What's the next ISOs? You have to give them the funding.
Yeah. So then what we do is we go, problems, the root cause, the consequences, and where they want to be. And then, depending on what you sell, you might be in an industry where you just have one product with one price or one service with one price. You might be an industry where you've got 20 products and services for different price, or you customize it, right? So that all depends. Let's say if I'm selling, goodness gracious, what an example, more like a B2B example here. I mean, if I'm selling final expense insurance or insurance, I might have like 3 or 4 different options, like different policies.
You do like consultative services, right? So like, generally speaking, a lot of consulting companies have like do it yourself, done with you, done for you. So they'll have like hey, come in and get access to the information, you can do it, or we can sit you there and guide you through and coach you through it, or we can come in and do it for you.
Yeah. So you might, like I said, it just depends on how you want to do this. Like there's different industries where I'm only going to bring up like one price, one solution. And if they can't get the funding for that, I start to downsell them into other options. There could be other things, like let's say if I'm selling, life insurance, I could give them a plan. And I could give them like let's just stay with your business consulting plan. I could say, I'm going to give them a very high price option. So I'm going to go over the options. I'm going to give them the highest price bells and actually, no, I'm probably going to, let's do this out. I'm going to give them a high price that's crazy, like has everything, right? I'm going to give them that mid-range. And this is probably going to be where most people fall in here. And I'm going to explain why we want to position it this way. And then I'm going to give this like cheap, low price that doesn't really solve all their problems. Okay. It's the same thing that high-end restaurants do when they bring out wine. They might bring out 3 bottles of wine and they'll have one option that's like $5,000. You're like, whoa, that's $5 or $6,000. And then the other option is like $940. And then they might have a cheap option that's like 65. They've done studies on this. It's like 73% or 74% always pick this mid-range option. You know why? Because this option, say it's at $5K, seems so crazy high that this option that's $900 seems like a bargain. And this option that's 90 seems too cheap. Like, I don't want to, that's too cheap. So most people, they purposely bring out this way expensive price to get most people to pick the middle option because that's the one they make a lot of profit on actually. And most people don't pick the cheap option. Now, if you get somebody that takes the high one, that's even better, but they want most people to take that mid-range option.
One thing that I have, sort of in some of the recent marketing data that's come out is that you can sort of manipulate what you want them to buy based on where you put the mid price. Obviously, that's a huge discrepancy, but let's say you have a 25, a 15, and like a 4, right? Mm-hmm. If you had the 4 and the 15 closer, so if you went 6 and 10, you would sell an awful lot of the mid-range.
Yeah.
Right. And then if you bump the mid-range up and have it closer to the top range, you'll sell a lot more of the top range. Apple does that really well, where it's like stuff it, I'll just get it because it's a lot more value for not that much more money. That's what Apple does.
So it's like the high-end desktop computer let's just go laptops, right? I think I saw that.
So it's got 8 terabytes versus 1 terabyte, and it's an extra $200.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like it's $15.97, and then the mid-range is like $13.94.
And then it's like $800. So there's a big gap between the bottom and the middle, and a small gap between the top. So you'll sell more of the top.
Yeah, because this is so close. Like, it's just an extra $200.
Exactly. But when you sell 225 million units a year, it's $45 billion.
That definitely can help your stock price for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of like, that's more product stuff though. And I think it's less. Okay. So far we've got, step 1 would be, I've got it written down, presentation. Step 1 will be bring back the problems that they told you, rebuild the gap and connect the dots from the problem to the root cause. Step number 2 is really establish and go back over the root cause, right? So these are like the fundamental issues that we're seeing that are causing you to have these problems that we're talking about. That's then going to link into consequence, because like by finding the root cause, if we don't fix the root cause of the problems will get worse, which will have a consequence of XYZ. And then we anchor that cost of an action to the price, essentially, to doing the solution. So it's like, hey, if you continue to do this and you keep losing sales and losing reps and losing all this kind of stuff, that's going to put you in a position to where you can't get to XYZ. And then from there, the objective is to put a system.
Which is more expensive? Is it more expensive to get go back to that marketing agency example? It's more expensive to get the $15,000 a month together. The problem gets solved and you scale to $5 million a month. Or is it more expensive to stay where you're at and you keep losing $3 million a month times 12 months a year, 36 months or $36 million year after year? Like, in your mind, which is more expensive? It's hard. It's hard for them to go, it's more expensive to pay the $15,000 a month than lose $3 million a month. So it's like a no-brainer at that point. They're like, oh my gosh, like, see, the value 20 times outweighs the price, where it makes the price look like pennies compared to what the end result that they want.
Okay. So if for step number 5 is say, give them the options, right? So give them the prices. How would you go about, I guess sort of like presenting those, because it's a lot of information, right? We have 3 packages. Do you sort of brush over the ones that you don't want them to take, or do you allow them to
I'm going to
pick which
spend
one you
more.
talk
I'm
about?
going to spend more time in the one I probably want them to take that's going to solve their problems the best, for sure. And then at
Okay.
the end of that, I instead of saying, do you feel like this could be the answer for you, which would be more like one product, one price, more B2C option. Let's say this is more of a
Okay.
B2C option. I might lean and say, which of those options would you possibly lean more towards? If they're still kind of uncertain, if I can tell by their tone or body language, they're still a little bit uncertain, I'm going to say, which one of those options would you possibly lean more towards? Possibly. Now, if I know they're on board because I can tell by their tone, but emotionally they're way open up now, which one of those options would you maybe lean more towards? I think we'd lean more to that, X was it. Oh, really? Why that option? I thought you would pick this option or something like that. And they're like, no, the reason why I want this option is because of get them to buy in more. It's the same thing like when we train like insurance companies, we go to the different prices or final expense. Which of those options would you maybe lean more towards? Okay.
Okay. Okay,
That's what,
cool. And would there ever be, so I'm just thinking like I used to sell high ticket fitness, right?
yeah.
And then we had quite a high price and quite a low price. We didn't have a mid tier. So if you're in that kind of situation, like one of my concerns, one of the things that I ran into a lot was if I presented, say, a really good offer that was like the higher price point, the lower ones, again, like you said, they don't solve the problem.
Yeah.
So I found that like the downsell was very difficult. But if they only sold the lower price, then that was adequate. You know what I mean? So like I started not presenting both. I would have them choose prior. I don't know if that's right, but I would go like, hey, and this is in fitness, so it was a bit more casual, right? It was sort of like it was like, hey, so generally speaking, we have two options. I like to break it down as a Hyundai or a Ferrari, right? Ferraris are fun, they get you there really fast, but hey, brother, they're expensive. Right now, Hyundais, they do the job done. It gets you from A to B, but it's not as fun. Which conversation do you want to have? Hyundai or Ferrari?
Yeah. See where they're
Right.
going. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And then
like,
they would go, I want a Hyundai conversation. I go, sweet. And then I would only present the lower price.
interesting.
That's, you know what I mean? So I would have them choose a concept, speed or speed or lower price. Which one do you want? That was
Yeah.
because I only had the two options because I didn't control it. I was just a sales guy.
What I always did when I was like one industry that I was in, there was three options, but I always started at the top to see if they could get the funding. And if they couldn't, I would downside. Now here's how I do it. They're like, oh, there's no way I can get the funding. I can't do that. Then I would do what we call the herd theory, right? Like if the cows are all starting to go this way, there must be a good reason why they're going that way. I should keep following, right? It's a herd theory. It's just the way we're wired. So if they can't get the funding, I'm like, well, because I wouldn't say that there's two options. I'd go over the first option first, but they just thought that was the option. I can't get the funding. Well, I mean, what I can do, typically, because sometimes we have people that just can't get the funding together. So what they do is they start in. So I just go back to like, yeah, sometimes we have people that can't get their funding together. So those people will always want to start in, and then I would go down to the next program and go over
Okay.
it and the price point, and I say, would that help you if we started you there? Oh yeah, that'd be a
Yeah,
great
it's a much
idea.
better
It's
way of
just the
doing it.
herd theory. Like,
'Cause it
oh yeah,
makes it seem like it's part of the process.
it's just part of the process. If you can't get the funding
Yeah.
together, everybody starts here. It's the herd theory. And if you can't get the funding together, typically at that point, everybody gets into this XYZ and it does do, this industry specific. And then would that help you if we started you there? They're like, oh my, that's a great idea. Now, if they couldn't get that, then I'm like, well, the only other option that we have, and if people can't get the funding for option A and for option B, they always start here, and this does that, blah, 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 blah. And this, would that help you more if I put you down in that? Oh my gosh, that's great. So, downsell, but you just a herd theory that, if people can't get funding for this, they always start here. If people can't get funding for this, they always start here. So it makes it seem like everybody's doing it this way. It must be a good reason why. Herd theory.
That makes total sense.
There you go.
That's cool.
Oh, we teach that in the advanced inner circle program. No, I know it's more like nuanced because I typically only do that when people ask me questions like you would ask, like, oh, I'm not sure how to downsell from this. I'm like, oh, you want to do this, this, and this. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. I mean, we train so many different types of people.
I know.
Like it's difficult to kind of
It's
it
so
always makes me laugh when I see people in like the Sales Revolution Facebook group. When they're like, oh yeah, I've studied an EPQ and it doesn't work for this. And I always go like, oh man, like what program are you in? They're never in a program. I was like, so what have you studied, mate?
I just saw a couple of reels. I'm like, you saw 60-second reels? Like how are you going to make more sales and not even understand the context of the reel and what to do if they say this or ask this, or why do you even say this? And it's not even industry specific. Like
it's like saying I studied under Bill Gates in business because I've watched a few YouTube videos. Oh yeah, no, I studied under Bill Gates. Yeah. Me and Elon. Oh, dude, I've studied Elon a ton. I've studied under him. I've spent hours. Like no, I've studied under Elon. Yeah, I've really dissected his methodology and gone through it all. It's like, you know what I'm talking about. It's so bizarre.
I know.
Yeah, no, I've studied. I've never, anyone who said that, they're never in a program. They've never bought anything. They've never done anything, or they bought like the black book, and it's like, man, it's a book.
It's a book of generic questions that doesn't tell you why you're asking them, or the tonality, and that's where the sales made, or the body language.
We don't like the word generic. I've changed it to universal. What do you think about that?
Universal. I like the word. It depends on the context.
I feel like generic has a negative context.
Generic is a negative context. Universal seems more positive.
It does.
Yeah, I like that. See, the words have power. All right, everybody. Hope that helped today. We gave you a little golden nugget. You want to learn more golden nuggets? Best place to start learning some little nibbles. We'll let you go to one of our Facebook groups, salesrevolution.pro. You go to salesrevolution.pro. We go live in there 2 or 3 times a week. Q&As, trainings. We'll give you some little nibbles. And if you want to get a more advanced training for you or your teams, just reach out to us in that Facebook group. You can always talk to us or our account managers. Matthew, thanks for holding the fort down there.
Thank you, guys.
See you soon.
Bye.